Hey man, what's up? This is Sweep the League. I'm Shemaya, man. You know me, Shemaya on the beat, but I'm just here representing Mr. Rudy himself, the lead of Sweep the League Radio, and also, man, representing Baller Boys and Army Focus Radio podcast. We have the one and only Leanne Calderon, and I just want to say first, man, you put one heck of a fight when you fought against your opponent, and take us back, man. What was that night like? Because the crowd was on fire.
It was pretty loud. It was, I enjoy it. I enjoy being in the ring and I enjoy having family and friends around. It's kind of like, old school backyard, brawl. You have all your friends or homies, rooting you on. And, but it was fun. It was so much fun. I was so focused. There were not as many nerves as I was expecting to have, with it being my second fight.
And this fight that we're talking about that happened in May 28th, TMB Promotions presents Star Power. And man, you fought against Devany and she did get the win, but y'all were great sportsmanships. I mean, y'all were really nice in the ring. I mean, right, I was shocked. I was like, there's no beef. I'm sure there's beef when you're fighting, but y'all really had a lot of respect for each other. Why was that?
Definitely. Well, I had met her actually before we had a sparring match, and, we welcome all female fighters or anyone who wants to come and spar. But, our door's always open. We run a Christian type, boxing. It's called outreach boxing. But, we have love and respect for all. There was no bad blood. There's no reason to hate on anyone or to have that, but as a mutual female, there's always that respect. You're going in there, you're working hard and you're putting it all out there. And for females to actually have technique in this sport says a lot. And she has a lot, and she grew up with boxing. So it was a pleasure to share the ring with her, and I hope we get to do it again.
Well, I'm sure that will happen in the future, man. When you have this sport is very, at times can be dangerous. Yeah. And it could be very just both opponents going at each other like real bad. Right. When you are protecting yourself, I mean, how do you train for these fights to make sure that you're going in with the techniques and having the smarts so that way you're as healthy as possible?
Definitely. So we do spar, but we use headgear, which is fun because after my first professional match, we didn't use headgear. So I'm like, the blows definitely, I could feel them. You're getting touch and you could feel it. So when I transitioned back to sparring with headgear, I was like, oh, this is nothing. Like, let's go in, and it helps you focus more to be able to protect yourself for the future fights.
And once again, talking to the one and only Leanne Calderon and representing Sweep the League. Shout out to you, Rudy, big man. And when you started boxing, I mean, what inspired you to say, hey, I want to try this on a professional level? Like, I want to actually try to do this. What inspired you to make that jump, and why did you choose that sport of boxing?
Well, I started off doing MMA, and I had my daughter. After that full year that I was off, COVID hit, and then I was off for another year. So it took me a little while, but I've always wanted to sharpen my skills with boxing. I've always had that brawler type in MMA. So I was like, you know what, let me focus and work on my hand technique and see, where we can progress. And I've always, loved throwing hands. So I'm like, let's see where we can get in a year. And I told my coach when I went in there, I was like, look, I would really like to try to pursue this. So let's see where we can get. And if we can get a few amateur fights and then jump to the professionals, let's do it. So just with the full year of training strictly boxing, that's where I got. And it's pretty awesome to be able to say that, because like I said, a lot of these other fighters have been doing this since they were younger, or they have a huge amateur background. And I don't. I have like 3 or 4 amateur fights under my belt. And so, yeah.
And you said you were in MMA. So share with the audience, what's the major difference from MMA and boxing, and how they're totally different?
So my biggest thing is that I loved being barefooted. It sounds weird, but I didn't have to wear shoes. But you can you do so many other types of martial arts compared to just protecting yourself with your hands. If you get hit and you get stunned, like you said, you get hit flush, with someone's power, you're going to feel it. And your only go-to is to either pick up your hands or start throwing. You protect yourself or you start throwing. And in MMA, you can take them to the ground, you can wrestle, you can choke them out. There's so many other ways to win, but there's also so many other ways to get hit. So, there's those ups and its downs, but definitely being able to protect yourself as a boxer, it takes a lot more skill, I think.
Once again, having the honor talking to Leanne and the amazing event that we were talking about earlier in this interview on May 28th. Big shout out to the CEO of TMB Promotions, Rick Morones Jr., because he put on an amazing event. The atmosphere, like I said, was amazing. And what I really liked was boxers were even watching other boxers after they were done. Like after you sweating it all out, you still support all the other athletes. How important is that atmosphere when you see other athletes supporting one another?
It's a huge boost, especially to hear the afterwards. They sit there and they see it, and someone who's gone through the same things that you go through, the training, the camps, the nutrition, everything else. And then to hear them say, oh, you did this great, or you did that great, or, I thought you won. That gives you another, like, all right, that's another notch in my belt. Like, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? Instead of hearing it from someone who doesn't really know the ins and outs of it. But it's a big boost, definitely.
And when you look into the future as we wrap this interview up, what is it that's going to be next for Leanne? What are some of the things you plan to do to prep for your next match? And what's some things that you are excited about in your near future?
Well, at the moment, my mind and my heart is set on going and reclaiming the 2 fights. 1, the first draw, and 2, the one that we just lost, which we thought was very close. So I want that, I want to reclaim those 2 and then move on to the next. And right now, San Antonio is hot with all the female fighters. So let's take on all the San Antonio girls and then move on from there. But I'd really like to start, obviously getting wins under my belt and showing my name and what I can do.
And last question, when you look at, you mentioned San Antonio being a hot spot now for female fighters. For the younger female fighters who want to get their chance in the whole industry, what encouragement will you give to them for them to prep their mindset and also their endurance of just stepping up every day to be ready for their fights? Is
regardless of how you feel, show up and train. You, especially being a female, we go through all the hormonal things and different changes. You still got to work through it, because no matter what, whenever you get in the ring, you never know what's going to happen on that day. So show up and train even when you don't feel like it. Keep your goal in mind. Know what you're striving for. And once you set that goal, don't stop until you get it.
Well, you've been listening to Sweep the League Radio. I'm Shemaiah, filling in for the boss himself, Rudy Campos Jr. Shout out to you, man, doing big things. And also, real quick, shout out to Rick Morones Jr., the CEO of TMB Promotions. He did an amazing event on May 28th. You got more interviews lined up, but I just wanted to say thank you, Leanne, for taking time out of your super busy schedule talking to us today.
No problem. I appreciate y'all having me on here.